Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you have recently played a brilliant game of chess? Now, for the 36 of you that answered that question truthfully, please add me to your group. Today's video will feature a game that I played yesterday while live streaming, and I got 2 brilliant moves and a 94% accuracy from chess.com. I played so well that chess.com thought I was 3,200 elo. This video will be split into 2 parts. First, I'm going to show you the live footage of the game, including a fantastic, insane calculation that I did at the end, and then we will actually analyze it move by move. Now, there's a lot you can learn from this game, so I hope this video entertains you and educates you, and also I just want to show off. Let's go. Yes, personally, I think Middle Games Masterclass is one of the best courses, if not the best course ever made for intermediate players. At least, like, for the middle game. I mean, I like very firmly believe that, and its sibling course is coming out soon, Endgames Masterclass. I think Endgames Masterclass is also like magnum opus. Like, it's so good, and we're gonna sell a bundle for those two, and it's gonna be lit. I mean, Endgame course is coming out soon. It's not out yet. I think we have a lot of useful pressure here. In fact, I would go as far as to say that we are nearly winning in this position. I think 50 Middle Games is like one of the best courses. Oh! That's a good move. That's like one of the only ways to survive, I think. Okay, I gotta bring my rook. This move does nothing, by the way, which is kind of a nice plus. Can I, like... I'm desperately trying to sacrifice something here. Oh, my opponent can't actually move. Wait, that's really funny. Hold on. They can't actually castle because I take. Oh, this is incredible. Look at this. They just can't move because of the pressure. Okay. Now, do we just bludgeon them to death with, like, knight e5? Yeah, I think this is the right way to go. And now d4. And you have to strike before the opponent is able to consolidate. Now we're going to take, and now that's hanging. Yeah, I made 2 very useful moves, rook c8 and castles. And chess get boring if you play it every day? No. Yes, but no. Because I'm so good. My wife and I had a big philosophical debate about this. Because a lot of the times in interviews, I get asked, like, what is it about chess? You know, like, why, like, how do you keep finding, interest in chess and all this stuff? By the way, I think this move works because I think despite being a piece down, I have so much pressure. I'm threatening knight d3. I'm threatening rook d2. If queen e4, I'm thinking this, queen b2. Oh my god. This might be one of the greatest games I ever play. Like, I am... King... Okay. Rook d2, king d2, bishop c3, pawn c3, queen c3, king e2, queen b2, king e3. Rook c3, king there. Queen f2, king here. Queen f6, king here. Queen d8, king there. Or I can play rook c5. Okay, my point is, it's winning. I didn't exactly see it, but it's there for sure. So the thing is, when you get that deep into a position, you probably have something if the king is on the other side of the board. Now, I think my opponent's going to spoil all of that and play like this, but then I have this, so... It's still going to be really brutal, and I'm still going to hunt the king into the center of the board. And the thing is, when the king is, like, being used as a piñata... Okay, so my opponent definitely missed this. And there it is. Oh, my god. This is incredible. Look at this. It's happening. I found it. I found the winning idea. First of all, I can just play rook c4, but I'm going for mate. Queen f2, king e5. Queen f6, king there. Queen d8, the only move is to go back. Queen c7, I found it. Oh my god. Oh my god. Here, 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 here. I can pre-move it. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh! 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 My opponent plays the move e4, and I respond with c6. This is the only opening that I know, and therefore I play it. I'm joking, but it's definitely the opening that I know best by far. Now, my opponent plays the two knights variation. So in every game of chess that you play, you've got to understand how to analyze and what to analyze. All right, so pay attention. Give me about, I think this analysis will be anywhere between 5 and 7 minutes, and I'm hoping to give you several nuggets of information to take away. So the first thing you do in every opening is you set a checkpoint for where your knowledge of the opening concluded, okay? That will help you gauge how well you know your opening and also how well you know how to punish bad opponent moves, and whether not just remembering the opening, but understanding the ideas, okay? So my opponent plays knight f3 and a two knights Caro-Kann. That's checkpoint number 1. My opponent is playing this variation. So now it's up to me to choose. There's a lot of lines here. There's capturing. There's the immediate bishop g4. There's various g6s. I play them all. I mean, there's knight f6. So here I played a6. Now, this is kind of like a sneaky little line I like to play. It's a waiting move. And it's a waiting move because you actually want white to play d4. You see, the main line traditionally is this, but white doesn't actually have to put the pawn in the center. So a6 is just waiting. Like, I'm just sitting there, relaxing. I am not rushing. I am seeing what is going to happen. So here, my opponent plays the move d4. And now I play bishop g4. So far, so good. I have had this position on the board probably about 100-something times. And sometimes they play h3, sometimes they play ed or e5 or bishop e2, so far so good. My opponent does in fact attack my bishop. And my bishop went there to perish because actually if I try to be cheeky and cute, I can actually get kicked out, and this position is very good for white. So I capture, and I basically just set up a brick wall on the light squares. I no longer have a light squared bishop, so I have a light square brick wall. Sometimes I will like to put my bishop there, but basically now I am looking at what my opponent wants. In this position, probably the best thing for my opponent to do is just to do nothing. Like, I have had opponents that just develop, castle, they leave the pawn here, because neither option is very appealing for white. If you capture on d5, you've lost your center control, and I'm happy. I mean, you've given me more space to develop. Not all trades are the same in chess. Right now, my pawns are kind of in the way, right? So my opponent plays bishop e3, which is a great move. I develop. And now the best move is just simply to go bishop d3 and castle. And the best move for me here is to take. Like, at some point, I have to take. I have to clarify the center. I have to go here. And essentially, I just have a very slightly worse position. I can play knight d5. But, I mean, I'm not going to get, like, some crazy winning chances. All right? Something like this can happen. Rook e1, castle. And, like, this is the position from the opening. But my opponent plays e5. And e5 is wrong. E5 is a fundamentally bad move. And the reason for that is the fact that it completely deadlocks the center of the board, okay? So the center is now completely frozen, and this pawn is attacking my knight on f6, but my knight goes back, and these pawns are just sitting ducks. With one pawn move, my opponent has blocked the bishop's activity, blocked the knight from having any pressure whatsoever, and now I control the pawn breaks in the position with the move c5 and f6. f6 is a backup plan. Really, this is the problem, because that move will pressure this and allow knight c6, which therefore pressures that. My brick wall of light squared pawns is not going anywhere. My opponent here sees that coming, and for that reason plays knight to e2. It's a keen move. This is a good move, knight e2. And a lot of people don't play this move. They just try to develop their pieces with, like, bishop d3, and then I play c5, and, you know, they get into some serious trouble. So, knight fd7 back, knight to e2, and there we go. But here's the thing. All these pieces have departed from the queen side, which means this area of the board is a little soft. And after I develop my pieces, I think I'm going to go exploit that side of the board. I can actually start taking. You see, yes, I can just play slowly, and my opponent can just play slowly, and then I can castle, and then they can castle, and like life is good, but it's not. You see, the more time I spend doing nothing, the higher the evaluation grows to my opponent's favor, which is really not a good thing. So after the move g3, I decided, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure I can go exploit this side of the board and open the floodgates, open the door for my pieces. And so I played queen a5. Now, I could have also played the move queen to b6 like this, but I didn't like that move because I actually thought my opponent could castle. And it looks like I'm right there, but I'm not. I'm not. Just simple king b1. And not a whole lot is happening. So I played queen a5, which pins the pawn to the king and activates pawn takes d4. If my opponent just plays this, I chop. There is no way to defend the pawn in the center with the pawn. And if bishop d4, I'm going to win a pawn. I'm just going to be up a clean pawn. Okay? So I played queen a5. My opponent dropped back. And here I was like, all right, that's pretty smart. The computer here doesn't like the approach that I took. Now the computer wants me to utilize the lack of defense from my opponent's center and go back to b6. A moment ago, I just said queen b6 is bad because my opponent can castle. But after the move queen a5, bishop d2, that's no longer defended. So queen a5, bishop d2, there is no queenside castling. Because when it's all said and done, I win a pawn. And probably I win a second one. So I didn't play queen b6. And I did this, and I thought, this is very logical. I am making progress in the position. I'm applying some pressure, and I'm just being a menace. And being a menace is a good thing in chess. It's a bad thing, you know, day-to-day life. But overall, it's really not a bad thing. And so in this position, my opponent played the move queen e3. I brought my rook, and I realized that I don't need to trade, because if I trade pieces, the exchanges in this position only benefit white. Now, you might say, well, white can't castle. And I might say, yeah, but so what? See, that's the thing in chess. You can't just say, oh, well, white can't castle. You know, as you get better, you need concrete evidence something is bad. You can't just say, well, can't castle, you know, it must be. No, right now, actually, the pressure that I'm applying to white's position supersedes the lack of castling if the trades were to occur. So that I realize that my opponent cannot castle because of the bishop, and my opponent certainly cannot play the move bishop b4 because I go here, and I'm threatening a fork, and I'm threatening discovered check. So they went knight c3. Now, at this point, white is a move away from being fine. White is a move away from being totally okay. What does that mean? Well, let's say I play something like pawn to f6, pawn takes, rook takes, castles. That's it. White is fine. So seeing that, I didn't get discouraged. I thought, I've got good eyes on the center, got good eyes over here and the rook. And a lot of the times when you have a lead in development in the opening and you're castled and your pieces coordinate well, tactics are abound. You always need to look for checks, captures, and attacks. Taking this is completely nuts because this move attacks my queen and then castling. But taking this is bad news for white because of pawn to d4. And white doesn't get settled. So pawn takes e5, d4. I've sacrificed the knight for a pawn. However, I'm going to get the knight back. So for example, queen e2, I'm just going to take on c3. And then I'm going to take again. And I'm just winning. I'm going to win all the pieces. I thought, okay, I'm going to win the game. My opponent goes queen d3. Now, at this moment, another idea dawned on me. And this was probably completely unnecessary. But sometimes if you do unnecessary things, great things can happen. Especially in chess. And I thought, okay, I can just take my knight back. I can take my return on investment, b takes. And then I thought, well, knight e5. And what I failed to realize is this is like death to the white position. Like white is dead. because you attack the queen, you pick this up, and at the end of the day, you don't take with the queen. You don't need to do this. You can just play rook c3, and white's king is brutalized. This whole game is essentially decided by the fact that my opponent was a step behind me in the development. All right? So knight takes e5 is what I played instead. I could have just played it simple, played pawn takes c3, but I realized that I can get a little bit more fun and exotic by playing this move. Not the best move, and sometimes it's absolutely fine to take back your return on investment right away, all right? Knight takes e5, d4, take the knight, brutalize down the board. But I did this, and now queen d4. And this is instructive, all right? Right now, black is down 2 points of material, but essentially black is down a bishop for a pawn. That is a fatal disadvantage. Like, black is lost. But in chess, the two most important things are material and king safety. And so in this position, my opponent's king is stuck in the center. How do I get to the king? None of this works. None of this works. But I use the queen as a target to find an anchor on d3. And if my opponent plays here, I utilize these pieces, and I can play knight d3, but also I have knight c4. It's very important to look for maximum danger when you are down material. And rook d8, I saw rook d8, and I thought, well, I'm winning because I'm going to play knight d3 check. And knight d3 check, I can take this and take this. And then here, I played one of the greatest tactical sequences I think I've ever played in my life. I played a rook sacrifice, which got me a brilliant move, and then I performed like a 10-move king hunt that ended with a walk of shame to the center of the board. This was amazing. The way I even thought of this move is you've always got to look at pieces you can capture that are protected by a king. For example, yes, I see this. And for the record, this is still good for black. It's just not as good. But this is only guarded by the king. And the king is going to walk out into a defense that he simply cannot sustain. So I calculated this, and bishop c3. Now, my opponent doesn't have to take the rook, but, well, if they don't, then I'm just going to take everything else. And they don't have to take my bishop, but if they don't, I'm just going to take and get in with my queen. So it's important that you don't just play hope chess. Like right now in this position, the best move for my opponent is not to take. It's to go here. Now, luckily for me, I am still completely winning and it's not even close. But in chess, you cannot play hope chess. It's not checkers. Okay, so after rook takes d2, king takes d2, which is not the best move. I played bishop takes c3. And what I had calculated was if something like king e2 is played, I'm going to give some checks and I'm going to win. But the hardest thing to calculate here is take, king e2. By far. Because mentally, there is no move here that wins for black. You can't give a check. You can't give a check. You can't give those checks because the queen takes and white is trading queens. And I realized queen b2 check forces the king forward. So from a distance away, I noticed the king cannot go back because I'll take the rook. Queen b2, the king goes back, I take the rook. Okay? Now, when the king goes forward, I bring help. The king now has only two ways to go. If you walk into my queen, I have mate in 1, which is very nice. And here I realized my knight is hanging, but I don't need to defend my knight. I can use my queen, and I can play queen takes f2. And I just figured if the king walks out here, I have mate. That's just what I thought. I thought if the king makes it out there, I have checkmate. And if I don't, then I don't understand anything about chess. And I thought, you know what? As a backup plan, I'll win the queen. Okay? Queen f2. And originally my idea had been this, and check, and rook c5, and maybe try to... And I realized queen c7, cutting off the escape, sending the king into the center of the board. Queen c5 mate. Oh, this one felt nice, and I wanted to share it with you. And I think there's a lot of instructional stuff here. Positional stuff, like how to replace light squared pawns when a light squared bishop is gone, pawn play in the center, and which trades come at what moment, and how to take advantage of an opponent that has weakened a certain side of a board, and understanding the role of time in a game of chess. When to strike, when to make preparatory and just sort of long-term beneficial moves. And I think we put all of that together. And I won a very nice game. I hope you enjoyed. Now get out of here.